So I wonder if I have to go to my. That's very weird because I don't. Of course, right? We don't do this thing for like a couple of days, and now it wants to be all weird.
Yeah. The other day I was trying to edit one of our videos, and it took me so long to figure out things that I used to do.
Oh yeah.
It's been like almost over 2 years since I've edited my last video.
Oh man. At least you weren't starting from scratch.
Yeah.
How do I do this, dude? I gotta figure this out.
Live.
So are you? Do I have to like launch this?
No, it's live. I can see us.
You can see us. Are we actually live?
Yeah, look here. I have a camera here that's going to show us on the background.
It's so weird because I don't.
I have a TV on the background.
Yeah, how am I not? It's so crazy. Okay, you're right. We are live on the.
Yeah, let me check this sound 1 second.
Yeah, check all of that because I don't have our analyst here tonight. So
it seems to be working.
Okay, and I don't. Cool. I am going to be driving blind. Let me think how I want to do this. Oh yeah, OBS. I'll have OBS open. That way, at least I can like move around the stuff. And I think like this interface that they have is the absolute worst built into OBS. Windowed projector. Okay, cool. All right, now at least I can see what scene we're on. And I don't even care if you're big. You can be big all here, but actually what I can do is you see we got this little border around here. So I'm going to get myself out of your screen. There we go. That's better. Cool. But man, so here we are. Okay. You're saying we're live, right? I can't believe it. It's been, it feels like it's been years. It's only been a couple of weeks though.
Yeah, definitely, man. I was so longing for this. And for the folks that are watching us, a recording version of this or our Spotify, it's 11 p.m. on a Thursday, right? So you better appreciate that because we are doing this just for fun, right? Just
so true. Just to involve our love for this, And on top of it, right, I'm gonna keep it true to the game, even though it's that late, 10 p.m. my time, 11 p.m. your time. I still got my drink.
No, I'm
You're
not
good,
drinking
though.
right now.
You're good though.
I'm just it's my tea. So for me, it's going to be bots and tea.
Okay, I like it. But to those who did show up or those listening on the podcast, we had a show last week planned, but unfortunately, there was a passing in my family. My dog of over a decade, and this drink is a shout out to her. That's why I got this. You'll see the can is whiskey. It's a shout out and homage to my pup Whiskey. A little Chihuahua. She was an amazing companion for over a decade. But that's why we had to have a little pause last week. I appreciate Joe's sympathy. He was there for me. I've cried as a grown man. It's okay to express your emotions. I cried so many tears last week over that dog, but I'm good. So we are back in action. Shout outs. Cheers to Whiskey. I know Joe's sipping some tea over there, but I know cheers to that.
Cheers.
But we are back and excited as ever. Joe, holy crap.
And hold on.
Yeah, hold on. If you have to get going, tell me what you got.
Let's play the drums.
Oh. How's that?
I couldn't hear it. Your noise canceling is just canceling all the noise.
I have to turn it off.
But the good news is, this, but some of the folks may not know. like we made it to Spotify, right? So we were just chatting. Like we are now also uploading our podcast to Spotify, and whoever doesn't like YouTube, right, doesn't want to watch the ads or just prefer Spotify, just tune in, bought some beers. It's going also all the episodes, and maybe in the future some extra material, right? Just exclusively for Spotify.
Absolutely. And I think we will be doing some audio kind of events, right? I think that there are some unique things where Joe and I are out in the field and we have conversations with some of these experts. And we're like, hey, where do we share that kind of content, right? It's not necessarily, we don't want to come and replay stuff for you guys here. So why not have an additional, listening experience? And so we like to have conversations. And speaking of that, Joe, you've been working overtime, right? You haven't just been sitting back getting us on Spotify. You've been, talking and collaborating. What do you got going on in the background? Anything you want to let anybody in on right now?
Well, our work for the community it's quite a lot, right? So we do have a few chapter meetings coming on. One is this Tuesday. So I'm going to meet with two amazing people. One is Andres, the other one is Jeffrey. They are also MVPs like you and I. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about this is that we all are experts on the finance area. And this talk is going to be just an open talk about RPA in the financial sector, which is going to be very amazing. I'm really looking for this. And there's another one for August. I don't remember the day, but it's going to be with Carlos, also another MVP. And we are going to talk about test suite. That's what I have on the pipeline.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think inside of some of that too, right? I think we're going to try to sneak some of those people on the show, right? We got to get some of those people involved. I think you also been working on something else on like a schedule or something too.
By the way, yeah, good remind. We are lining up some good guests. One of which is already confirmed for next week. So next week, Thursday, live, we're going to have an amazing guest. We're not going to reveal right now, but just tune in, and that's going to be an awesome talk. I can't wait for that.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely be leaning in. We have a good variety of talent, right? If there are people that you guys are interested having on this conversation, talking about automation, the state of intelligent robotics or AI and the impact that that's going to have, right? Let us know, right? Shoot us a message, leave it in the chat. Let us know who you guys want to talk to, and we'll reach out to these people. I have a lot of relationships, and Joe has a lot of respect in the industry from the work that he's done, right? And so, and he's networked a lot. And so I feel like we can get a lot of good representation, and we're going to start off giving a good depth of variety, right? This is a new show, a new podcast, and we want to see what's valuable to you guys. So we plan on bringing, new developers who are fresh in this space, have a different perspective, and can get you an awareness of what it feels like to be entry level. We'll reach out to experts in the field too, right? People who've been doing this as long as Joe and I have combined, if that's imaginable, right? And they'll tell you, where they think that this space is going. So I'm excited, and I really am excited about the work that Joe's been putting in behind the scenes to kind of, get this stuff going. He really cares about this podcast, and I'm excited.
Awesome. Speaking of which, you touched on a point that I actually want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
For a few weeks already, like brand new, fresh developers, right? Mm-hmm. I have a friend, and he actually is listening to the podcast also. So, and he's following what are the posts that I'm doing, that I'm making, and so on. And he is transitioning to RPA. He is studying for UiPath certifications, and he is always asking. So my friend Marcilio is his name. He's always wondering, like he's asking me a lot of questions. Okay, what should I do, right?
Yeah.
As a fresh one, what should I do? I already gave him my perspective, but coming from you, what would you do, like if you were transitioning careers and you were getting started with RPA?
Yeah. I think that there are so many good answers on this question. And I have to do a shout out and a plug to another MVP, Rashmi, right? I believe she was just on another podcast talking about this very scenario. And I think that she had a valid point, right? She mentioned that when it comes to today's space, in order to be competitive and to have the most opportunities, you'll probably want to learn multiple tools, right? You probably want to have more than one tool, because if you only have one tool, then you're kind of locking yourself off to certain organizations. So I thought that that was a very valid perspective. I also, hey, intelligent automation as an industry, it's a teenager now, right? We're out of childhood. So I don't think that you're going to see, and you're seeing this, I think, with some of the questions we're hearing about job opportunities. I don't think you're going to see the market that you used to see, where you can just walk in with a background in anything and then just easily land a spot because they're in such need of resources, right? That was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We're talking about these programs being over a decade now, and the secret's out. This is not a new space anymore. So you can't, I don't think, rely on one software to be competitive if you're new. But the beautiful thing about it is that these technologies have grown so rapidly that all you have to do to get competitive now is get past that first tier of training. So what do I mean by that? You need to find something to specialize in those platforms. So you can't just be a core RPA developer with no background and expect to be competitive in today's job market, flooded with IT resources over the last 12 months. But if you know RPA and you are functionally sound in DU and RPA, now you have something, right? You have a functionality that I know will continue to grow. And same applies with DU. Same applies with maybe a different type, like test automation, right? Instead of just core development, I'm getting into test automation. Maybe Copilot's a strategy where you get really good working with Microsoft Copilot, UiPath Autopilot, right? So it's not that the industry is incrackable for new people. You just have to recognize the game, right? It's changed. It wasn't like it was when I got in and they needed people and they said, "Hey, you were pumping gas last week. Come here. You can do RPA." The secret's out. So that's my thought. I'd love to hear what you shared. I'm sure that our viewers and listeners would love to hear some knowledge from Joe and what wisdom you shared from your perspective.
No, I totally echo what you said. Like, we can't just say core RP anymore. Like we talked about this a couple of times. Like, I was given the example of Java, right? Back in the day, we used to be core Java developers, and then today I don't even know how many frameworks are out there, and it's the same applies for RPA, right? So
Very true.
I got in this industry later than you. But when I got here, I remember seeing like core RPA positions, which like are rare to be seen right now. So yeah, definitely knowing the core RPA is going to be very beneficial, very helpful. It's going to bring a lot of value. But knowing other technologies, especially towards the AI, right?
Yes.
We've been talking about this for weeks, months maybe, and yeah, AI is the new fancy term that Gen AI, everybody has Gen AI, everybody is creating new stuff, is creating new models, and so on and so forth. And we just have to adapt, right? It's that thing that you gotta learn, otherwise you will be, out of date really soon.
Yeah, that hasn't slowed down, right? I mean, if you have conversations with old heads in IT, right? They'll talk about having to, reinvent yourself consistently. And let's just take today. So today I was in Austin. I drove 2 hours north to Austin, Texas to partake and support in an AI engineering workshop. And we're not talking about run-of-the-mill AI. They were, leveraging Hugging Face. They literally had an entire sort of concept, and it crescendoed in the end to leveraging UiPath to read contracts and using document understanding to extract information. I'm just kind of giving some context here, but what I found fascinating was, I'm sitting in the back kind of just looking at this user group, this AI user group, and the population, it couldn't have been more diverse. There was literally zero possibility that if you were to go out and randomly select people, that it would have been this diverse. All
Really?
age ranges. And here's an interesting observation too. 50 people roughly in this AI user group. And I don't know what it is about Caucasian males in America, but the only Caucasian males I saw in this AI user group, they were older gentlemen, quite older gentlemen who were seasoned, experienced developers. Anybody below the age of 50, I would say, were all non-Caucasian people. Not even women. It was lots of women, all sorts of ethnic diversity in the group, and it was amazing to see, right? And
awesome.
and to see like these people kind of at the forefront. And even at the end, the last topic that we wrapped up in the user group, and these are hardcore AI topics. It was talking about basically reducing. I can't think of what I'm drawing a brain fart here. It's probably because it's late in the evening and maybe the whiskey's hitting me quick. But basically, being able to take large models. And Intel Vino, if you're familiar with this, probably a lot of people aren't, but it's basically the capability of taking models and squunching them down into really tiny bite-sized models that you can push to endpoint devices with low battery, not running them on GPUs and stuff like that. And so they're figuring out how to leverage models and deploy them on IoT devices. And so the stuff that these groups are talking about is very interesting. I even learned a lot in there, talking about the breakdown in RAG. If you guys are familiar with what RAG is in terms of generative AI, you got a very good understanding of how that even works, right? So, but yeah, quite a bit diverse, but that plays right into your topic, right? Here is a perfect example of people consistently recreating themselves in these user groups, right? Doesn't matter what they were learning or what tech. Here they are trying to learn the future of what's happening, and you got to do that in this space.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was a time that I thought I would just get to a point that I could just stop learning new things, right? But long time ago, I already, gave up on that idea.
That wasn't required.
And we just have to keep going, and never stop learning.
Yeah.
And I think that's also healthy, right? Because it keeps your mind working, consistently. So that at least for me, it's what drives me. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so excited with the show itself, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many learning here, so many different skills. And just this learning process, drives me, give me the boost that I need to go after something.
No, I feel it too. And I think that when it comes to like pushing yourself and reinventing yourself, even doing stuff like this podcast, I feel like there's operational benefits, right? From being able to communicate and think about these dense topics and, regurgitate what our thoughts are. These are the kinds of things that we talk about with executives every day, right? At a unique level, whether it's about budgeting or security or what's the strategy, right? So a very, very, very important thing, right? They have this concept called growth mindset versus learned helplessness, right? And that, I think the growth mindset comes around a lot in people in this space, right? If you're not familiar with, those two concepts, growth mindset, sort of the way that we view the world and whether we can change it or have an impact. And learned helplessness is basically the mentality that the world's happening to me and I'm just, basically powerless to change what the outcome is. Destiny's destiny. I can't change any of the outcomes. But with people who keep reinventing themselves, they're from that growth mindset category where they know that basically they have control of the narrative. So I think that's a very important thing to understand. Like if you're not aware of growth mindset versus learned helplessness, I think it's a topic worth reviewing and seeing, is it something that is you're falling victim to, or is it something you're using as a strength?
Yeah, exactly. But man, talking about topics worth speaking about or learning,
right?
Let's just shift the gears a little bit because I was waiting to hear your thoughts on the latest UiPath news. And we had that session with some of the executives from UiPath.
Yeah.
The rise of agentic process automation.
Oh, man. Right? So I promise I'm not trying to reach through the camera and grab you right now. I'm just I'm adjusting so my battery doesn't die. But so you went to this session, right? We both were there.
Yeah.
Bobby and Forrester.
Yeah, I was there. But my this is funny. I like to make fun of things, right? Yeah. But when I saw the topic, the first thing that came to my mind.
What's that?
Man, this seems to be a new episode of Star Wars. The rise of the agentic process.
Right. It definitely has the means of something crazy, or I don't know if it's Overlord or some sort of crazy. What are some of those other old classic sci-fi movies where the AI takes over? I know there's a couple out there where they like.
There was one really good. Oh my God! It was on Netflix. I forgot. What is that?
They've had some pretty like Ex Machina or they had some pretty cool AI based shows on Netflix.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. There's some, but back to the topic. So
yeah.
First of all, what is an agentic process?
So I think that just like what is a bot? Remember how there's this big debate about what an actual bot is? Is it an automated process? Is it a task? What's a task versus what's a bot? I think, first of all, let's be honest with my just impression of this. I think a lot of this stuff is overhyped, like well overhyped.
What do you mean?
Meaning that everybody for the last 10 years, people have been slapping AI on their products and acting like there's some big proprietary thing that they've done when they've just used somebody else's AI and changed a couple lines of code. And I think that what UiPath has as far as generative is the only thing that I've seen that's operational AI outside of marketing, which I mean is, hey, I can use generative AI to create a marketing image, a piece of art to try to market my stuff. Or I can create a little agent that answers Steve from accounting's questions about, how many leave vacation days does he earn a year, right? But there's literally an example, and I wanted to cover this with you. An example with Canada Air, you can Google this, Canada Air generative AI agent, where they had a customer-facing generative AI agent. And what happened? Customer was complaining about, he had a situation, it's very sad, his mother passed away. Long story short, the company, the Canada Air had a policy about traveling for deaths in the family, and they were like reimbursement and refund policies. Long story short, the AI agent created basically a fake policy on behalf of the company to refund this gentleman the price of his purchase ticket. So essentially what it did is it misinterpreted the corporate policy and gave the customer a refund. And then when the company didn't want to honor the refund, the guy sued the company and, eventually won. But so what I mean by this is that companies, the only real successful use cases of Gen AI that I've seen, they're all inward facing, right? They're not customer facing. And the ones where the people that have been trying to use Gen AI for that kind of benefit, they're swinging and missing. So I think that's what I mean when I think there's a lot of hype about it being operationalized. But so first of all, that's my baseline. What agentic means to me is that I have some sort of brain, some sort of generative component on top of an automation or a robot, right? Where this agent has the capability to act within a limited scope and a limited repository based off what it's given. And that can be grounded in operational context. It can be grounded through RAG where it grabs some data along with its already brain. So that's what agent means to me anyway. Do you have a rebuttal or what's your thoughts?
No, I kind of go on the same lines as you. So the automation is still there, but this new era of process is elaborating a little bit more on the decision making, right?
Yes.
What I got out of the sessions is that at least UiPath is trying to encompass bigger processes, or is trying to catch more slices on the market in a way, or to improve their perspective, and by giving the bots ability to make better decisions or to make decisions, because the actual core RPA is binary, right?
Yeah.
It either works or it doesn't work. Whatever you tell the bot to do, the bot's going to do, right?
Yep.
It fails, then it fails. And with the agentic perspective, the bot may have some boundaries where it can make decisions on itself, right?
Yep.
So that's what I take out of this, which seems to be very, very exciting in some perspectives, right?
Yeah.
Like on the capabilities, on the use cases and everything else, like there's a lot of potential, right?
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of potential.
You know where I think the potential is? I think the potential is in people who have been leveraging these tools long enough and have expertise in the AI aspects to start developing their own products around these tools and then selling those products to companies, right? So instead of going in and selling UiPath to a company, I'm selling UiPath with a agentic operational model around it, right? And it's based on industry specific data, right? Because tying this back into what, your original question was about the UiPath Forrester AI agentic, webinar that they had. And an interesting thing, might be a hot take, but I didn't agree with some of the answers that the Forrester gentleman gave on some of the questions that Bobby shared. I think that the perspective was a little dated from my opinion in sort of the responses. But one place I completely agree with the sentiment on was around making industry specific models. Part of the reason you're not seeing the value and the part of the reason there's an issue trying to convert all the hype into operational dollars and cents is because all of this stuff is too generic, right? All of the models out there and their capabilities, they're too generic to be used for specific use cases. And so the only way you're going to get down to that granular model that works for banking, that works for insurance, that works for this or that, is you're going to have somebody build those and train them and take those services to market, right? And that's when I think there'll be true change. Until then, I think it's hype.
But then, like, if I am from the insurance sector, right? Will I want to use a model that was trained with other companies' data?
It depends on, I would say yes. First of all, I'd say yes, but that's a very generic question and response, right? Because if you're talking insurance, right? Like I don't want to get into like insurance specifics, right? But let's give an example of a physical therapy practice, and referrals, right? For physical therapy for shoulder injuries. Generally, medical billing and medical coding and terminology and how all of that works is pretty standard and structured. So I don't see it would be too difficult to make a model that would fit in other places. And on the back end, the ERMs or electronic EMRs or electronic medical records, it's pretty consolidated. So you have like Cerna or Epic. And so you could probably build a general model for that industry on those systems that I think that would fit, right? I think that could work, but there's going to be plenty of situations that just won't work, right? I can't use a model for them for what you're using it for my stuff.
Yeah, I think it will depend on each use case, but generally I agree that many people, of course, goes back to the risk exposure or to risk appetite of each company, right?
Yeah.
If they have a high risk appetite, meaning or if they don't have too much exposure to risk, let's say they are just automating HR use cases, right? It's pretty low risk. So then, definitely bring it in because it's going to bring a lot of value. I can create more automations, better use cases, and that should be fun. But now you mentioned if insurance, maybe no insurance, I don't think so, but financial, right? When it comes to PCI data, that's extremely sensitive, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel comfortable knowing that my bank is using my data to train, machine learning models or AI.
Yeah, so now we're kind of getting into a different topic because you asked me if I would use a model trained on somebody else's data. The inverse of now what you're going to is a company, and my company's very picky about this topic. And your second question is how will that product company that's coming in, will they leverage my data to train their models, right? And my company, that's the first thing that we ask organizations that come in with AI, because we won't, right? Because just take my company as an example. We're the number one in our market by hands down, by a large market share. We're the number one in our industry. And we see our data as valuable. We don't want to have somebody train on the industry leader's data and then go out and sell that algorithm with our information to somebody else. So, but what's great and what's happening and what you're seeing is like UiPath. What are they doing? They're training it on their own data. They're also generating some of this data themselves, right? And so when they come in there, say, hey, first of all, we're not going to train on your data. You train on our models. Our models were generated by our own data and not other customer data, so you don't have to worry about that impact to your data. And then when you train your model, and if you're familiar with the DU process, then you see these pipelines and how they work. But when we train it, like we're maintaining that training data, we're setting in the samples, we're controlling the weights once they're kicked out, and that's not going anywhere. It's staying in-house. So a lot of companies are good. UiPath's very good at explaining like, hey, we'll give you our model. you tap into that, you can train it, and then what you create out of it and how you use it, that's still all yours, and we never touch it.
It's very, yeah.
So,
yeah, interesting.
Oh, man, we have so many things to get through, but you keep like spinning my head off in these like see the little firecrackers where they're like helicopters and they spin and you say a topic and it reminds me of it. Speaking of that, I was wondering if that technology that Microsoft got dragged over the coals for, where they were recording all of your activities on your desktop. So then the little AI, it's some, so, I don't know if you're familiar, but like basically like Intel Microsoft came out with their own chips for AI chips, and they're putting them on laptops and computers and all that. And they offload AI algorithm or AI processing onto these chips. Well, it turns out that there was a functionality with Windows where this AI chip was essentially recording everything that you did. Everything that you did. Yes, every single thing that you did for the end, but they used it so like you could go down to your desktop and then type in like, hey, where is this PowerPoint that I was working on? And it would be able to say, hey, here's where you saved it, right? But I mean, think about everything that it's recording, and even if it's stored locally, like the kind of risk that would be if I'm basically, capturing all of your screen.
That's insane.
That's insane. And then I thought, what I thought about it, and I want to like, I don't want to cut you off, but this is why I thought about it as soon as I did. But I was like, dude, you know what kind of software they could probably create if they were literally monitoring every single thing that you did, and then trying to use algorithms to build some sort of product that did stuff for you? And that would be crazy. And I was like, they could play it off as some assistant, so I'm going to record everything you do. But in the meanwhile, they're building algorithms on all your actions, right? Exactly. So, and they have,
Yeah. So that's, sorry, but
go.
I didn't want to lose my train of thought, but that's the problem that Canada and the US and probably other countries saw with TikTok, right? Because essentially the agreement that you sign off when you install TikTok is that they can do whatever they want with your device and your data. And so they are literally monitoring you 24/7, right? So even your camera, your contacts, your texts, your emails, everything that you do, they have access to that. So that's crazy. And here in Canada, the government bans from people working for the government.
Yeah.
Officials. I don't know how many people work.
Interesting.
And I know there was a movement in Canada and US, I believe as well, to ban like for good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it was a legislation that passed. They didn't ban it. They said that they required TikTok to sell. Basically, the U.S. said, if you don't sell, then we'll ban you in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. But then,
excuse me.
When I first saw that, I thought, oh, that's nice because they are doing this. They are just grabbing all the data without our acknowledgement.
Yeah.
But I remember someone saying, oh, but what about Microsoft? What about Apple? What about all the other companies? Google, Facebook. Yeah. Do you know what they're doing? Do you know what they're getting?
Oh, dude. Don't even get me started, right? I think that there needs to be legislation on that. I consent. Does anybody ever bro, I understand legally when you click I agree, like your consent, like when every time you download an app on your phone but who reads that? Nobody reads it. Nobody. And like you could put, they probably tell you owe them I can't say that live or on Spotify probably, but they could probably say you owe them all sorts of stuff, right? And you would never know. I agree.
And even if you read, let's say you're a teenager and everybody uses TikTok, and then you want to use TikTok and you're going to read, oh, we're going to get together all your data. We're going to see your emails, your texts, blah, 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 blah. They will say, oh, if I don't agree, I cannot get it. So just leave it. I'm going to agree.
Exactly. So weird.
So you don't have many options, right? Either you agree with or you don't. And then if you don't, you don't have it. So it's a it's stuck between a hard and a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, how we even got to this point, right? It's probably like laws and regulations that require them to put all that stuff in there, but then nothing that helps us, understand what's actually in there. That's a weird thing. There should be, I don't know anybody who reads those, so there should be like a law where they can't even use that anymore, right? They can't, that's not even like, it's a known fact.
But then how would we know what they're doing, right? So I don't know. Yeah, that's
true.
I don't know what is the actual benefit of having that, but yeah.
So do you think that
99% doesn't?
So I have a question tied into this then. So do you think that all of the organizations in the world who have internet service and have like security on their internet, do you think that they signed those agreements for CrowdStrike when they implemented that? Well, do you think they know what they were signing?
I was waiting, because I wanted to talk about CrowdStrike as well. So that's a damn good question, right? I know, some companies, they do assess. There is a risk assessment for every software, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do it
and
too.
And then there's security analysts. They will read MSI, the
MSA,
master. Well, what is MSI?
MSA for? Master Service Agreement.
Yeah, MSA, right. So there's this full-blown review of every single line, and then they make notes and recommendations and changes and so on and so forth. But even then, right? So let's say, your company or whatever company did all that, right? Everything was right. With all the lines. Oh, if this happens, like we cannot. This is not right. Let's change this contract. Let's put another word in here. Let's change the verbiage, and then we sign, right? Everything set up.
Yep.
But who could expect, right, that CrowdStrike? First of all, like, just very briefly, like, I know little to nothing about CrowdStrike. I know it's there. I know it's in most enterprise devices. I know it's responsible for monitoring and making sure of the security of the device, right? It's a endpoint for security. Mm-hmm. So who would imagine that something responsible for the security would just, break everything?
You put it like that, Joe.
Globally, right? It's not something localized to America or whatever. Globally.
I can't, and we're worried about hackers, right? We're worried about hackers. We have all the security that we have in organizations, and we're worried about that. And look what happens. Were you impacted by that, or did you experience? Did you, like, you personally? I want to ask you about your company. Did you experience?
No, my computer. I probably didn't turn on soon enough to get it to be. I don't even know if I have it. I don't think so. I swear to Jeebus, I might have been one of the first people globally to like experience the CrowdStrike glitch. Really? Yeah, because I was texting you earlier, so you know my sleep schedule. I'm up late, like I'm up late, and like if you see me like right now, I'm looking at the camera. My work monitor is right here. I have another monitor right here, and I have my work laptop, right here. It's right next to me, and it's closed right now. Usually it's open, and so it was about midnight, almost 1 a.m. And my laptop was open. Sometimes I forget to shut it, and I noticed that it blue screened. Like it literally just blue screened. I was like, that's weird. And I didn't think anything of it. I just kept going about whatever I was doing. And I noticed, it reboots, and like most company laptops, we have our splash page or our login page. And the login page popped up, and then I noticed, and then it blue screened again. I was like, it's kind of weird, but I didn't read the message. I just closed my laptop. I just closed it. I was like, this is something weird. I'll just deal with it in the morning. And I think I get up at like
5:36, and I'm scrolling through my phone. That's what I do in the mornings. Like I read. I'm like reading the news, or that's what I do when I go to bed too. And I'm reading the news, and I'm reading about Delta and airlines and this CrowdStrike thing, and I'm laughing. I'm like, dumbasses, over here broke these systems, and I'm not even putting two to two together, and I don't even think about it. Right? I don't even think about it. And as I sit there, I kind of like relax a little bit. And then I'm kind of like looking at my phone, and then I just happen to pop up my work email, and I see like my boss's boss that emailed me. They said, "Hey, what's the status on the bots?" And then all of a sudden it clicks. I'm like, "Oh, sure, global outage," and I had read the article. So I get up and I'm like pinging offshore, and I'm like, "Hey," and I'm not gonna tell any more operational knowledge, because even that I don't think gets me in trouble. Just a couple of emails. But I experienced it myself. And so this is weird. I don't think this is, you could probably Google what actually occurred, but I'm going to tell you what it took to fix this. So like most companies, you probably had to submit a ticket, right? You're to the help desk. When the help desk contacts you to fix this CrowdStrike issue, what they basically have to do is give you admin rights over your PC, or they'll have to remote in themselves. But most likely, if you're remote, they'll give you admin rights because you can't connect. And what you have to do is you have to restart your PC in safe mode, then go into your hard drive, and you have to delete an entire folder of files and folder structure. Yep. You have to delete all of this stuff from your computer and then reboot it. And the whole process took about, and I'm pretty technically savvy, and you have to enter, I had to not only delete it, but I had to enter in keys and specific stuff, which this is like, I'm sure globally, everyone had to do the same procedure and delete these files. And it took 10 minutes. Now imagine 10 minutes and 10% of your workforce was impacted. If you have 40,000 employees, 4,000 employees, 10 minutes, who's paying for that time to fix all of this stuff? Who's responsible, Joe? Is it CrowdStrike? Is it Windows?
Well, we have to look at the MSA.
MSA. Right? See who redlined that part.
Exactly. But man, fun fact. I think it's too late. I'm already rambling my words. But
on that tea.
I was reading about this whole shenanigan and charade, right? So the guy, the CEO, the CrowdStrike CEO, 10, 12 years ago, he was McAfee, right? He was CEO, or he was a C-level McAfee. And there was another global outage, with him on the lead.
Oh my God. Really?
That one, I don't know the very specifics, but very high level. McAfee was antivirus, right?
Yeah.
So they released an update that essentially was identifying the host's file, that hosts on the etc folder as a virus. and
antivirus
just breaks everything, right? Because this damn important file.
Man,
was just breaking everything, like computers, laptops, desktops, servers.
That's crazy.
It was just and see, bro, it takes little to nothing to make a change like that. Identifying a file as a virus, to me, like as a developer, can be an if condition, right?
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, and it can cause a global.
Hey man, I cancel culture absolutely disgusts me. Right? It's something that the youth, I think, created, and it's dog water. But that dude might need to be canceled, man. You can't have 2 global outages on your resume, bro. And
it was not his fault.
It's on his watch. It's on his watch.
Yeah.
This is bad luck. It's just bad juju at that point. I don't think you can I don't want to I don't want to have that bad luck.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he was the leader, right? But this I don't know, right? We don't know the specifics of the case, but
Yo, that's true.
it can happen. And man, see, a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, here in Canada, there was a national outage. Like we have essentially two major internet providers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Internet, mobile, phone services, everything. It's Bell and it's Rogers.
Yahoo. No, I'm just joking. That's messing with you.
So there are a lot of smaller providers, but at the end of the day, they are getting the service from one of the two. That's what I know, right?
Okay.
And all of the sudden, one, shiny morning, one of them just went down, right? And services,
poof,
like everywhere, everybody was impacted in this country. Even people that was using the other one, because then, I have my Bell internet, so here's working. Let me access my bank. It doesn't work because our bank is impacted, right? Let me go to the gas station and just I'm gonna use my card.
So who paid for that?
Because so I don't know, but it was like major. And what they released was that there was an update in the system, and the update crashed, and the rollback didn't work, and there was just a snowball
effect,
and just 3 days, I think 3 or 4 days, something like that, like problems everywhere. You were basically able to use cash.
Man, well, good thing I always keep some cash on me, but that's miserable. I don't know how. I'm surprised that people recover from that. Somebody went out of business because of the CrowdStrike issue, right? Like somebody lost half of their portfolio because of the CrowdStrike thing, right? So it's pretty insane. I don't know where. I don't know where you go, right? I don't know. Everybody has jokes about how Gen AI or test automation could have prevented this, right? But I think it goes to show how fragile the entire system is. I don't, that's a global outage.
That's a good point. Like, what's the resilience of our infrastructure as a whole, right? And that can be applied to everything, like even the bots that we create, right? What is the resilience of your bot infrastructure? What is the resilience of your overall IT infrastructure? Do you have a backup? Do you have a DR, disaster recovery? Do you even know what DR means?
Yeah.
Right?
So we used to have what we call business continuity plans, or BCPs, and so it was situations similar to that when there were fallbacks, especially with automation. Because back in the day when we built it, we didn't know how long it would work. We had to make sure that the people stayed trained. The bot might break tomorrow. It might break the first week. It used to work like that, right? The bot will be doing a work of 30 people, and you roll into production, and it breaks day one, right? And then you got to call people back to do the work manually. So that used to be a big part. And then the technology got so good the developers got so good where it wasn't an issue, right? The thing would break in production, they'd be right there, and then 20 minutes later they'd have the fix, right? And it wasn't an issue. But back in the day, that wasn't the case. Things would break. You're like, hold on, we'll fix it. We'll be back next week. But resiliency's gotten better.
I have a fun story.
Yo, let me hear it.
I used to work for a bank in Brazil, and there was one application which the server was physically in a meeting room. Like there were 4 physical computers inside a meeting room, and an entire application was hosted there. So I might be mixing some stars here, but what I recall is the lady that was cleaning the room, was mopping, was swiping, and then by mistake, swiped some cables and turned off the application. And then people, oh my God, what happened? The server's down. The server's down.
That's crazy. It reminds me, when I was a kid growing up, there was this old HBO commercial And it was some like guy. It shows him in the like outside of some city, and he's like up in this big like electric pole, and you can see it's like in the almost looks like a desert, but in the very background you can see like a cityscape, like a skyline. And he's up there like fixing some cable, and he like connects it, and then you hear it, yeah, and then he disconnects it, and it's like, oh. And he's like listening around, but it was supposed to be like the city, and that's what it was. He was connecting like the cable and the internet. They're like, "Yeah, it's back up." He's like, "Oh!" He was like hearing the whole city. It reminded me of that. Like she hits the cable, and they're like, "Oh!" And then she like bops again, and it just kind of jiggles back into place. It's like, "Oh, it's back!"
Exactly.
That's so crazy.
So that's why. That's one of the reasons why I like cloud, right? So when you hire a cloud provider, Google or Microsoft or Amazon, whatever, there's others, you can build that plan, right?
Yeah,
you can have different. You can go cheap.
Redundancy. You can.
One data center.
Be offline.
But ideally, you should have at least two, right? Because then you make sure in two different regions, right? Because if you have the same data centers like in Canada, and then Rogers
go
down.
Canada goes down, you're just still done.
Yeah, you go down, right? But yeah, of course, there has to be some architecture planning on the disaster recovery side. But that's like the magic of cloud, right? One of them. So I love that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. But of course, if the internet goes down, the cloud's down, right? Well, I mean, you have a local cloud, depending on what you create. But even then, too, if the internet goes down, your customers aren't touching it. So, well, even then, too, depending on what kind of services you have, if they're deployed in the cloud.
What? Yeah. So sorry, but one thing that I just reminded, like.
Yeah.
Many people in the beginning on the CrowdStrike outage, the beginning, I was hearing people saying, "Oh, Microsoft is down. Microsoft is down." Did you hear that? People blaming Microsoft?
Yes. Yeah. I saw even the memes where I saw this meme where there are people outside of their office and they're like, "F you, Microsoft." Yeah, they thought it was like Microsoft or something. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, but I think. I don't know, maybe for many people that are not tech, they still believe that it was a Microsoft problem. It depends on how much knowledge you have on this.
Yeah, I think that's a big. Oh, wait, you scan away. I was trying to. I had some, and you asked me that question. I was trying to pull up a folder on the side and get some of the memes that I saw from the CrowdStrike thing. But it also reminded me of something else. One of the topics that I had saw, and I wanted to, I had pulled something else, and I can't remember. I'll have to find it, but it was some pictures. I've been going around trying to collect things that I find interesting on the internet, like LinkedIn, that are kind of relevant to what we talk about. So I plan to maybe figure out a good way to kind of incorporate those into the conversations instead of doing what I've done previously, try to open up a folder and they're right on your face. On the podcast, so I got to work on.
It's all fine, man. I know we are getting better on this, so we are learning. So whatever works, it works. Whatever we do, we are doing the best we can with what we have at the point in time. But listen, bro, it's almost midnight here.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up, man. It's getting close.
Yeah, we're good to wrap it up.
So what do you have? Closing thoughts? I could talk for days, but we got to get out of here. What are your thoughts, man? What do you got to wrap this session up?
Well, the two major things, right? The rise of agentic process automation that UiPath is bringing in. This is going to stay for a little while on the news.
Yes,
we're going to talk more, and our guests that are lining up starting next week. We are also going to put them on the spot because we want to learn from them what they think about this, what are their overall perspective on AI and other trend topics, and also the CrowdStrike, man. This was really something. to be honest, I like to see, to some extent, in some perspective, I like to see this kind of things happening, because it makes us rethink, our own work, what we are doing. Are we doing a resilient work?
I love it.
Are we thinking on a backup plan, all these kind of things, right? So it brings a new perspective. Of course, it's not good, right? It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't bring any benefit. It's probably devastating for the CrowdStrike as a company. I heard that the CEO lost some, few hundred millions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
it's gonna happen.
That's not ideal, right? But we have to leverage this kind of opportunity to, think a little bit different than what we do.
Yeah, no, think
critically.
No, I agree. I think that I'm going to hop on your bandwagon, sir. I think that we'll make the term for today's session resiliency. I think it's important to consider resiliency in what you build. I think if we talked about reinventing yourself, it's important to consider resiliency in your own personal life too, right? Making sure your career is resilient, being resilient. One of the things that I learned in the military, resiliency, the quickest way to define it is your ability to bounce back after adversity, right? And then incorporate that learning into what you do day to day, right? So what did you learn from CrowdStrike? Is there any way you can improve that? If you can find a way to take that concept and apply it personally to your own life, how can you be more resilient in this ever-changing market? I think that you got something cool out of this episode. Joe, I absolutely love having these conversations with you, brother. I'm actually excited that we're just at the beginning of this journey. I think that there's going to be some incredible gains made. I can't wait to see where we're at 1 year from now. And if you're listening, whether it's on YouTube, when you're viewing it, or you're on Spotify, we promise we got something in the works from you guys. There've been a lot of conversations. Joe, I can't wait to get back on here again. Thank you so much, sir, for spending your time being a night out with me here. So
absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. This is something that I really like to do, and we are doing for fun.
There we go. Speaking of
actually having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Having fun while we do it. Speaking of which, is our fun going to stay on Thursdays? Is that what our new time is? You thinking that's what we liking? So our people know?
Yeah, let's keep this at least during the summer.
Okay.
And
great. Sounds good.
Later on, we can review if we keep going or not.
There you go. So catch us live Thursdays weekly. We'll get really consistent from here on out. And if you can't catch us, then 7 p.m. EST Thursdays. And if not, catch us on Spotify. Joe, have a wonderful day. If I don't talk to you, have a wonderful weekend with your family, friend.
Likewise, my friend.
All right, brother. Later.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have to give me 1 second as I wind down this stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will have more sessions for you if you're on Spotify. Thank you for listening. Other than that, I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Check back in before your next go live.